remember to.
Good day, everybody. This is the Spiritual Podcast Channel. My name is Paul Arie, and I have the privilege of being with Miss Mohini Marie and Miss Kaushik Trahan. And this is the first podcast of the channel, and we're here to talk about and discuss all things spiritual and how it works with our personal development and empowerment, specifically as it applies to the teachings of Sri Kaleshwar, which all three of us have been practicing for many, many years now. And we were talking about this podcast and about, this path and what it was about. And we came up with a real succinct idea of like who and what this path is about. And we synthesized it in very simple terms that it's about accessing supernatural spiritual channels and the source of the miracle energy within us and around us. And because we spent so much time with and around and trained by Sri Kaleshwar, who was a master and avatar, that we learned all these techniques and all these channels so that we could share with everybody here and everybody listening to this channel and the classes that we conduct and the podcasts that we do. So, we all know the benefits of meditation and how it really is about turning within. And what sets this apart from other types of meditations is that it's transformational. The teachings, the practices, and the processes are designed to really alchemize and to feed the soul on a very deep level. And when we really talked about it, we asked, well, where did Sri Kaleshwar, who was a saint, who at a very young age had visions and experiences, and he was able to read these ancient palm leaf manuscripts, which is where his teachings and the knowledge and the techniques and the processes come from. And if you take a look into the depth of them, I've actually touched them, read them, looked at them, and hopefully during the course of this podcast series, we'll be able to share some of those palm leaf manuscripts so you can actually verify and see the amazing yantras and mantras that are contained in them. So really, Swami's intention was to bring about enlightenment to the West. So the question was, when the three of us talked, what is enlightenment? There is the traditional sense of like, becoming one with the almighty bliss and allowing yourself to fall unconscious and be absorbed in that. But to Sri Kaleshwar, it was really a lot deeper mechanism and Shakti to it. Our enlightenment process, which is really what the spiritual path is all about, is about discovering who you are, where you came from, and where you're going. And really, it's those three components that comprise the direction of our spiritual path. For example, if you're experiencing unhappiness or any type of negativity in your life, well, that really distracts you from recognizing who you are. So through these processes, they're designed to really kind of help remove all that dust, which is on the soul. So that's our brief introduction about this channel, the path, and our teachings. And now I'd like to really kind of introduce everybody to these two divine ladies here. And I'll start off with Mohini Marie and just ask her, how did you get involved with this path, meditation, this processes? When did you start? And where has it brought you to today, Mohini?
Well, hello, everyone.
It's great to be sharing this talk today with all of you and with all of us. Um, I find it interesting. Paul and I met back in 1998 in India, and that was when I met Sri Kalishwar and Paul. And there was a group at that time, and I was not familiar at all with Indian tradition and use of mantra or anything like that. I was just on a path of self-discovery and a healer in the Western world, and it just intrigued me. I heard he was a great healer and people had great experiences with him and healing, and so I found myself in India, and Paul was actually the first person I met in India.
Yeah, I
And we've
remember
been,
that.
yeah,
That was a great time. Where
it was
was it?
like
The Malagi Hotel in Humpy?
Malgi Garadia Hotel in Shirdi,
Right, right.
where it's Sri Kalishwar's teacher, guru, has his samadhi there. And so you were the first person I met as I was sitting there as a deer in headlights, because this was a very alien experience for me over 30 years ago. And but the first thing, Sri Kalishwar struck me. He didn't speak such very good English, but it was his beautiful presence and his open heart. And I could feel his love, and people were saying he was a great healer, and I wanted to know more about that as a healer in the West, as a counselor, working in a program. And so Paul introduced me to him as a teacher. So he sort of set my destiny there. And so then, we've known each other, and Kowski, we met sometime later, and we've been working together for many years in different capacities in India. So I always find it interesting to hear about how people came to this particular path. I've done many things before. I met Sri Kalishwar, starting with Buddhism and the whole idea of enlightenment, and finding, what is the meaning of life and death, and, what are we supposed to be doing here in the world? And being a healer and an empath, how do you help people? How do you make them feel better? How do you help them to help themselves, really? And so, his Sri Kalishwar's teachings really resonated with me. And Paul and I come from very different backgrounds. And so I find that fascinating. Different parts of the country, different backgrounds. And so for myself, it's been a great journey. And for Paul, what's kept you on this path for so long?
I from the get-go, when I met Sri Kalshwar, I think it was in November, no, it was December of 1997 in Mill Valley, where he did a weekend retreat. And he talked about the mantras, he talked about enlightenment, he talked about Jesus, he talked about Shirdi Sai Baba. And then over the span of the 2 days of the workshop that he was conducting, he started performing all these like amazing miracles. I watched it unfold as he would put his hand into a blazing fire in a fire pit and then pull out some coal and then transform that coal into a necklace or a jewel or some sort. And it just was it blew my mind. I mean, at one particular point in time, he was spewing out of his mouth sacred ash on people in a room that was meditating. And after everybody came out of the trance during that weekend on that particular process, there was like a thin layer of ash on the floor. And it was just, it was that and many miracles of healing that he performed on people during the weekend, that I said, wow, this is really this guy was really linked to the source of all of spirituality. I mean, he can perform miracles. I need to learn more about this. I need to understand what the mantras were and so on. So it actually gave me a glimpse of the possibilities of what us as a human being could attain in this lifetime. And that's what intrigued me. He said, he says, you can become a healer just like Jesus. I said, excuse me? It's kind of like, really? I said, well, what was it? How do you get there? What do you do? What are the processes that these saints did that they kept secret for years? I mean, millennium. It's been secret only from one person to another person over the span. So what I found refreshing was that here was a saint that demonstrated the miracle energy, the healing energy, the transformational energy, and he wasn't shy about saying you could do it too. So that kind of like, finally, it was like someone, because I've met many saints prior to Kalashwar and was on the spiritual path for 20 years prior. And I was
Mhm.
looking for something deeper.
Mhm.
And it was like it clicked. It made sense. So after that in 1998, I booked he said, come to India. You'll see a lot of amazing things. You'll experience a lot of things. So in February of 1998 was my first real trip to Penaconda. And it was just amazing. I mean, 6 weeks of absolute amazement. And I wound up being the photographer of many of Swami's classical early days photos because I was just enamored by his capacity. How about you, Mohini? What brought you that faithful day at the Garadius Hotel in Shirdi that I got to meet you, and what brought you there? What intrigued you about it?
I can't even say. It's just one of those internal feelings that you just know something. And I heard from a friend that they were going to India to go on this journey. And they were talking all about it. And I was like, wow, that sounds really great. I'd like to go too. And, but I wasn't in that circle of the new age healers and, spiritual people. I was more in the mainstream healing. And they said, well, the trip is really for people who are into, energy healing and things like that. And I said, I felt a little disappointed. And so I was told basically I wasn't invited. And what happened was the group left for India. And I just really wanted to go. And I've always had this deep personal connection to the divine, Jesus specifically. And I just started praying. And I really couldn't even tell you why. I just had this like really deep desire to go. And I was praying. And then like about a week, it was a month journey, I think, that you went on the first time. And after about a week and a half, a little bit more than a week, my friend called me Sunday night, 4 o'clock in the morning, and said, Sri Kalashwar walked up to me and said, tell your friend she can come.
Wow.
And so she was kind of surprised. And so I get this phone call at like 4 o'clock in the morning because of the time difference, and said, okay, so, Sri Kalashwar said, you can come, but it's Sunday night, mind you, but you must be here by Thursday. And in India, it's a long flight. It's like 18 hours, plus there's a time difference. So you lose a day. And I'm like, and I didn't have a visa. I did have a passport. But so that's it. I went the next day. I called out of work. I went the next day and I got a visa and I was on a plane the day after. And I got Tuesday and I got to India on Thursday. And had to drive 6 hours, these treacherous roads. And then I met Paul.
Yeah, right.
And then I met Swami. And so it was just this inner drive. And I really couldn't even tell you why, because I knew nothing about it. I couldn't understand a word that Swami said, nothing. And but I felt it was right. And basically, and from the very beginning, his messages were, don't believe what I say. Just, if you're interested, you feel pulled to it, just do the process, feel it, experience it, then come back and talk to me about it. And that's what I did. And it's that profound change that happened pretty quickly, where I said, wow, there is really something here. And because I could feel something changing within myself. And that's really what's kept me on the path really a long time, is just seeing the impact, the effects in my life very quickly. And, and that was in the early days, he did do a lot of miracles, and I was able to, and that's what sealed it, like the second trip to India, watching him do a miracle and, changing, ash into this beautiful stone. And he said, you have to see the divine with your two eyes open. You have to see it because it affects you in a way that changes you forever, because we don't think that kind of thing's possible, So when you witness a miracle, it really opens your heart, and then it allows that energy to flow, and it allows endless possibilities. So that was it. That sealed it for me. And that was probably like, I don't know, 6 months after I had met him the first time.
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
And but he said the true miracle is not, he called that chocolates, like when he would manifest things or change things, he called those are spiritual chocolates. They're wonderful to experience, but the real miracle is when your life changes.
Right.
And you see that transformation within yourself, that you become that. And you feel it, and you have to experience it. And that's really what it was for me. And then, so that kept me working. And so, Kalski, what has your experience been? You met Swami a number of years later. It was a different kind of situation.
So I've always done spiritual work, and I was on another spiritual path prior to meeting Swami. I was on the Yogananda's path, and I had gone to India in 2004 with a group, and was doing a lot of meditation and a lot of study with the Yogananda group. And I went to a class that they were that these teachers were teaching in my area, and it was about the womb chakra, and the womb chakra is all about healing heartbreak, healing all the things that we hold on to. And so I went to this class, and after I took the class, I was like, wow, this, I think, is the next level of information coming on the planet, and that this is really intriguing to me because I'm also in the medical field, always wanting to do and help others as well as doing healing work for others. And so I just kind of jumped in with 2 feet going, I don't know, but I know that this is the next level for me, the next step. And that just kind of sealed it. And then I met Swami Surya Nadi, which was in 2009. Was that July, August, somewhere around there in California. And the one thing when I saw him, one, he had this amazing smile. That's Swami behind me, by the way.
Young Swami.
Young Swami, right? He had this smile, this dazzling smile that was like radiant, and it just like lit everything up around him. It was like amazing. And then because I was new and I'd never met Swami, you could sit in the front rows so that he could see who the new people were. And I was meditating, and I opened my eyes, and we connected in the eyes, and I felt like when he looked at me, it wasn't like he looked at me as this physical form. He looked at me as at the soul level, and recognized who energetically I was, and and it was like, wow, I feel like I just got hit all the way down to my soul. That's what it felt like. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then later that night, they had a fire ceremony, a homa, a sacred homa. And he started the fire with just his intention. Nobody had lit it with a match or anything else. It was strictly his intention. And at that time, I really didn't understand what I was witnessing, but there was a lot of stuff that was happening because I was new and not familiar with recognizing the miracle energy. I felt a lot of energy coming through. It was very powerful. The whole night was very, very powerful. He did a lot of healing for those of us who did some special processes, which was amazing. I'd never experienced anything like that. And from that point on, And it was a really tough decision for me because I was with the Ananda group and made a lot of commitments to Yogananda. And it was very hard initially to move over into starting to learn this new information coming on the planet, these technologies that can help transform our lives, but we can also use these technologies to help with healing others, sending distance healing, doing these healing, hands-on healing techniques to help other people. And so that just kind of sealed it, and I kept going, and I was like, I'm in it for good, and jumped both feet in and started taking all the classes that I could, and going to India multiple times. I thought after the first time I went to India, that was going to be my one and only trip, and so far it's been about 11 or 12 trips now. So India, when it calls you, you go. There's just something, and I've known since I was probably 8 that I would go to India. I didn't know when or how. So there is something that is on a soul level that pulls you to your next step. And so for all of you who are watching, if your soul has brought you here, there is something that your soul is reaching out to do your next step, and whatever that is for you personally. So, it's amazing information, very transformative. I am not the person I was 24 years ago when I started this work. So it really has a lot of power to it to transform you and, those around you. And to help with the planet, we're going through a very amazing time on the planet that we have the ability, we are co-creators, we have the ability to create something beautiful on this planet. And so I invite you to kind of look further and continue to listening to our podcast. And we'll have classes coming up that people will be able to take as well. So that was it for me. It was like hook, line, and sinker.
Okay, so you said something really interesting. So you said you're not the same person now that you were 24 years ago. Well, we all get older, we learn from experience, right? We get wiser, hopefully. What has the work done that's beyond that for you? Like, how do you see yourself different because of the work? Besides the normal maturity process, what has the work done for you?
I think on a intuitive level, I've learned to trust my intuition a lot more, which has helped to guide me on certain steps in my life as far as directions, and also with knowing what to do and helping others. I've also used the work because I work in the OR. So I've used the healing techniques to send healing to people for helping speed up the healing process. I'm less emotional, I would have to say. There's less anxiety and fear. I've always been a pretty strong individual as far as myself, but there was, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of feeling like I wasn't good enough with what I was doing and things. And that's all resolved. A lot of there's been a lot of inner work. It helps you go really within to help to understand what is playing at the deeper levels that are running your life, and help you to release that. So these mantras and these processes really help to shift a lot of old programming and a lot of unresolved, deeper issues that keep you back from really living your life, a full life, in joy and in trusting the divine to take care. Um, so I think it's, yeah, I'm definitely a different person than I was
I,
24 years ago.
I would say that that's a really important point, Kausuke, because what I've noticed, with not only for myself and a lot of clients that I work with, it's about, well, how do I change? How do I really transform? How do I really get rid of those things which are influencing and impacting my well-being, my state of mind, my sense of happiness inside? Anxiety seems to be more so now than during my youth. Anxiety is rampant. Fear, um, self-doubt, and unworthiness. And I know one of the things that transformed for me was that, uh, just to dispel, to really dis, dis, discard these layers of impressions within us we're completely unaware of, and that's, for me, I found that power of the mantras and the practices and the processes. you know y- you could do the mantras, but it's in the processes that you have quantum leaps and transformation in your own inner consciousness. You start to become aware of your own power. And I think that that's really the value of what Swami's work is, from a personal experiential uh, way, to say, wow, I've really changed. And, sometimes it just takes a while to catch up. Like, I used to be really unhappy and just angry, just very um, upset with how my life turned out. And it's like I was searching for something to change because I realized the problem. And then over time, sometimes it's instantaneous, all of a sudden, like a huge, massive block of karma just gets lifted off your shoulders, and then you say, wow, I really am not the same person. Um, and I think that's what you're talking about, Kausuke, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's like you said, events in our life that shape our decision making or our behaviors, um, or our responses to things that come on a daily basis. And so once you can start recognizing patterns and releasing those triggers, um, then it seems like life gets a little more peaceful. Like I'm not getting triggered as much as I used to with things. I can kind of like go, okay, whatever. I don't, there's things that don't upset me. When I was younger, things would happen and I'd hold on to it for weeks, weeks and weeks until, how's that? Is it, you're eaten up inside because you can't let go of it. Or you can't go, okay, let's take a step back and let's look at this thing from all angles. And how do I resolve this? It, you start there's a saying about becoming the witness. And for a long time, I couldn't quite figure out what does that mean, becoming a witness. It means being able to take a step or two back and go, okay, what am I really seeing here? What am I witnessing? How is my behavior impacting what's also happening? How is my response to it? So you start becoming a master in how you are responding to life, responding to the events, and you're no longer getting pulled into it by past karmic reactions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it just is more, I don't know, I feel more peaceful. I feel
Mhm.
a lot more peaceful than I used to be.
Mhm. I think that's really in line with what Swami used to say all the time. He's like, you have to take it sporty. You have to take it sporty, no matter what happens. You know, if something good happens, it's good. If something bad happens, it's good. But you should take it sporty so it doesn't affect your inner balance. And it took me a long time to figure out what he meant by that. But it builds, you know, doing the work builds that strong inner core. So no matter what happens in life, you know, you have a solid core. And so, you know, things will come and go, but the reaction to what happens isn't the same anymore. You know, so it just passes by. And it doesn't mean that you don't have emotion. You know, you're happy, you're sad, get irritable, irritated. I find myself that way very often. But inside, there's still this sense of being solid and peaceful and happy, you know, and just, I'm okay, you know. Whereas before I started doing the work, it was more, you know, I would have these emotions, but I was so affected by everything that was going on around me, it would take my happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And Swami always said, you can't let things take your happiness. You know, life is short, make it sweet. Well, how do you do that exactly? You
Right.
know, you need to have that strong core, that sense of stability where you're okay no matter what happens. And your reaction is important. So um, when things do happen, you don't have that emotional strong reaction as much. You know, you can just be that observer and watch it, and it passes. And so you feel an emotion, but you let it go, and then you move on. So it's like being in that flow. And I think, I know for myself, that's one of the biggest things that I've gotten out of the work, being able to maintain that inner sense of peace and stability,
Mm-hmm.
just happiness. And I could be, you know, come home and be irritable, or things happened and, you know, it didn't work out the way I wanted to, or, you know, whatever it is, but it doesn't change that inner sense. You know, it's something external. And then, you know, we've been given all these different tools and techniques of how to manage those transient kinds of emotions and things, because we're human. You know, humans have emotions. So things are going to come up. Situate, we can't control everything, you know, things happen. There are karmic things that go on all the time. So how do we handle that? And the work has given us a lot of things to be able to handle those kinds of situations that come up and to manage ourselves. But
It's almost as if you don't allow your emotions to take you away and override your energy, because it's all about energy. You know,
Mhm.
it's if you have an emotional reaction and you engage and indulge in that emotional reaction, and you engage with other people in a way that feeds that trigger, you know, by the end of the day, you're like a wreck. You know, you're just, you know, you're depleted, you're disturbed, you're unhappy. You, you know, all you can do at the end of the day is think about the negative interactions that you have uh, throughout the day, and that struggle, you know, that fighting, you know, with people, with their emotions, with their feelings, how they affected you. And when you're really not, like you said, centered, or you know, I like to define things. Centered means that you're anchored within the energy of your soul, and you're not allowing your energy to just spill out, and you're not allowing your mind to react in a negative way, so that so that you overreact to circumstances. Because really, that's what's mastery. It doesn't mean you don't have those emotions, but you have mastery over those emotions, and you have mastery over your energy, you know, and your equanimity and your focus and your peace of mind. So that what I found is that in a tense situation, in a combative situation, if I bring my equanimity or my balance of energy to the circumstances or the situation or the people, it tends to have a positive effect so that it can be resolved and dissolved peacefully without becoming a victim. And that's what I found to be very empowering, because there are a million and one reasons why we should react to people and circumstances and get overly emotional.
So I'm going to point out one word that you said, which is very interesting. Victimhood, or being a victim. Um, a lot of people can identify with that. I was, when I was younger, always placing blame outside of myself or in the circumstances around me or the people that were around me, and always whining and crying about being a victim. And so, what you're saying, Paul, by using these tools, and there's a lot of tools that we have,
Yeah.
That shifted that, because now what's happened is, like you said, mastery of your energy, mastery of how you have response to a circumstance or situation. And are you going to allow this circumstance or situation take you out of your centeredness or your peacefulness? I mean, yeah, you can respond and react. Now I can respond and react, but it's usually gone within a very short period of time that I can let it go. We have a technique called decharging that helps to let go of things that we pick up on an energetic level or emotional level. And so there are techniques that help that, and I just don't hold on to things like I used to. I used to hold on. I mean, it was crazy. And so, you know, you become the master of your own self,
Right.
is what happens.
Right.
And that puts you in a really amazing place of personal, I guess you could call it enlightenment, or I'm not going to use the word power, but it is in a way, because now you've got mastery over how you're responding and how you're dealing with situations in your life that come up. So that word trigger, because I see that with people. I'm sure you do too, Mohini, about trying to get people to see how sometimes they hold the hold on to that victimhood, and can't move beyond it to shift in their life.
Just look at the nature or the definition of what a victim is, right, Mohini?
Mhm.
When you're a victim, what does it say? What it says is that somebody else has power over your experience and your affecting the situation. Literally, it means that you are you're at the effect of somebody else.
Mhm.
You're
You're
giving
giving over your power.
yeah.
Mhm. Somebody is doing something to you and you're giving over your power. And that's not to discount that things happen. I mean, things happen to us all the time. But what you do have control of it over is how you react to what happens to you.
Exactly.
And, you know, and it's a big thing. And that causes a lot of distress when you feel that someone is doing something to you, because then you feel there's nothing you can do. It can't change. And it increases that sense of powerlessness and separateness. And, and this whole path is about recognizing who you are and becoming that creator. Everything is inside of you, and it's being able to really, truly not only understand it on a mind level, it's feeling it, being it, living and breathing it. You are that,
Right.
and stepping into that power, because then you have the power over, your life.
Right. So I guess the natural question would be, if I was a new person watching this, would be, well, how do the mantras work to help me to get out of becoming a victim? What do I need to do? Is it a process? Is it a mantra? How can I, because obviously, the obvious circumstances are there. I'm a victim because of economic status. I'm a victim because of relationship sabotage, or I'm a victim because of my upbringing as a kid. All these things, or I'm a victim because of my karmas. That's the classic spiritual victimism, is that I don't have power to change my karmic trajectory. And so it's a really important point, because when I came to Swami, I knew that I was trapped in a life which I wasn't happy. So, and I came to the point where I recognized, like, okay, I'm not happy, but I don't want to be a victim anymore. I want to regain my power back, and I want to become happy again. I want to wake up in the morning and see joy around me, because the opposite was true. And I would blame everything and everybody around me.
Mhm.
So the question everyone's going to ask, and this is a great topic, this is a natural topic that just came up. How do you transform being a victim to becoming a master?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a great question.
It's a great question.
And it's a process.
It's a process.
I mean, there's no
You know.
magic bullet.
So,
There are no magic bullets. And, it's unfortunate because a lot of us have, well, we come from that mindset or the programming that we're looking for that magic bullet. And, and it's partly driven by the whole medical profession. If you take this pill or this medication, you will feel better. It will heal you. It will prevent something from happening, so, and it does have its place. I'm not saying we should trash the whole medical profession, but we tend to think that way, though. Like, everything we do should be instantaneous, and we want instant results. Flip the white light switch and we should be enlightened. And there are people who promote that. You just do this little thing and immediately you're going to have enlightenment. It's play one frequency or something, 5 minutes a day, and it doesn't really quite work that way. There can be instant manifestation, but it is a process. It's a process. It took you your whole life to become who you are now, and it's a process now to change that, to make the choice to change things in your life, to manifest what you want to become.
Right. And Swami's message was, this is really a shortcut master's path. And if you stick to it, let's be honest, guys. If you've got stuff that you got to clean house with, it's not going to be pleasant to kind of like, go through the muck of it. But, and I'm talking from my own personal experience, when I was sticking with it and really putting my intention for transformation, the mantras had so much more power, and it accelerated my transformation over time. And I began to see it. I mean, I saw demonstrable differences in my personality over time. And I would have people come to me and they would say that, who knew me, and they would engage and talk with me, and they say, Paul, you're a different person. I said, how so? I can't put my finger on it, but just I think you're just a lot happier. I said, yeah. Well, guess what? To be happy really takes hard work, doesn't it? It really does.
Sometimes, for some people,
it takes making the choice, placing your intention, making a commitment, and then taking the steps and being consistent. Practice and patience. That was what.
It's making that intention. It's saying, okay, I'm recognizing something needs to change, and I'm willing to do the work. So show me the avenue. And like Paul said, Swami tested everything he gave out to the students. And he knew that the modern society had limited time. So as Paul said, he was a shortcut master. He condensed what we could do uh, in this time frame, in this time period, um, so that people could really start transforming themselves. And then ultimately, if you think about, okay, think about a pebble, you throw it into a pond. Okay, you're the pebble. All right, let's look at this analogy. I'm the pebble. When I jump in, there's ripples that go out. Okay, so if I'm transforming me and my energy and how I'm interacting and responding, then that's going to affect the next layer of people, which then they go, oh, wow. And they feel good. And it affects the next layer that they're meeting. Or you're meeting people just at the grocery store or on the street or walking your dog or whatever the case may be. You then become this beacon, so to speak, this energy that is being uh, spread around to help uplift the planet, which is where we are right now in
Right.
humanity's growth. And so it's really amazing. I get really excited thinking about this because what that means is that we, as humanity, have the power to change what's on the planet.
Right.
Mhm.
You had
You know, it's
something.
not just us, it's the big collective as well. So it's just very exciting.
I think
Is
you.
it-
I think you hit the nail on the head, Kalsaki.
Mhm.
You know, um, and I think, and I really find it to be true that if you really want to change yourself, you said it, change your inner vibrations. Isn't that true?
Mhm.
If you have if you have a pattern or a tendency, or I was thinking about this, how do you transform from fear or anger or even victimhood? How do you change that? How do you change that experience? You can't always change the circumstance, but you can transform your inner energetic experience. Because if you take a look at it, and I was thinking about this, Mohini, and tell me if it's true, whether you find it to be the case. You know, the root of victim, a mindset. It's a victim, mindset is rooted in blockages within us, right? Swami Kalshwar used to talk about you have to wash out your blockage, right?
Mhm.
And I found, because I've been a victim myself, and I owned up to it, but I had to look at it. And for
Mhm.
me, I found that the seed of two things were inside of me that led to my experience of being a victim. One is deep unworthiness, deep unworthiness about my experience of who I was. And then the second seed of um, impurity, which was inside me that I started to recognize, was my level of doubt, doubt in myself, doubt that I can lead a positive life, doubt in other people, leading to lack of trust, that leads to fear. So those two things, like unworthiness, deep unworthiness, and doubt, are things in the meditation process, which, getting back to the mantras, are designed to help bring up and to remove.
Mhm.
What did you say?
Absolutely. And that goes back to what you were saying about frequency and vibration.
Right.
It's so how does it do that? Well, what are mantras? Mantras are sound frequencies. Um, and there's been actually a lot of research on the impact of sound, whether, how it moves patterns in water and um, there's been a lot of scientific work on the impact of frequency. And we're water, our bodies are water. And so we're doing mantras and we're creating these vibrations, is vibrating our whole energetic system, and it is literally changing we're electric, and our systems are just impulses, and it changes our structure.
Right.
it brings us into different brain states.
Right.
So with consistent practice over time, it really begins to change our brain patterns. It relaxes us. It gives us greater perception. So we see the tension that we're holding. We see the thought patterns. We remember things that we held in because we were traumatized at some point.
Right.
And the cause and effect of things.
Right.
Why do we get angry? What was that trigger that made us angry?
Right.
So the mantras help to loosen all of this stuff up in our energetic field, and so it changes our perception and allows us to release it, and it has an impact on our energy field, the vibrations, and everything around us.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
really,
we change over time.
and it really does. That's been my experience too. Is that it really unearths that experience from whenever. It could be from this lifetime. It could be from a past life. In fact, has been my experience, because it seems to be the same pattern. Seems to go from one lifetime to the next lifetime. It's such a relief when you start to look at, okay, well, something's happening in my internal subtle body here seems to be that the mantras are working, and they're vibrationally uprooting the weeds in my auric field to be dispelled, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how transformation happens, because when you bring in massive amounts of conscious light and divine energy, what's going to happen? It's going to shed light on the dark sides, but not to hyper focus on the dark sides, but to facilitate the purging from your system.
Mhm.
And that's what I've experienced, the miracle energy that's involved with these mantras, that really anything is possible. And traumas, the healing process will touch those moments in life that have been traumatic, to be healed. They can be healed. I've had clients where it's like massive transformations. Like, we'll be doing a session, and all of a sudden something will come up, and they'll just start crying for no reason whatsoever, because the divine energy will find the weakest link within your soul and heal it.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I mean, that's the good news, I mean, if you really want to grow, change, expand, heal, learn, evolve, there are the tools and techniques to do so. And it will happen. It's just a matter of practice and patience, as Swami loved to say.
Right.
And it will happen. If you do the work, the results are there. So if people are interested, we can post the information below the video. You can reach out by email, and we can let you know when there are classes or work out
We'll be
your
having
interests.
We'll be having courses, classes, workshops, retreats coming up. Just simply go to the channel, send us your email, because that's the easiest way for us to communicate and to let you know. I know for a fact, because I'm teaching a womb chakra class in February, which is really about, healing heartbreak, healing relationships, and removing those seeds that, we've made mistakes in the past. How do you rectify it? How do you heal it? How do you remove whatever it is and start again?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Powerful process.
Mm-hmm. That's the first one I ever took. And it
It's
was like,
probably
I was hook, line, and sinker after that one.
It's one of the most personally transforming processes that you can
Yes,
take.
it is.
Um,
So, and it was necessary at the time. So that was good.
just clears out all the old stuff that isn't serving you well anymore, that's preventing you from manifesting the life that you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yes,
It's about a lot about relationships too,
a lot
so
about relationship, and not just personal,
healing
relationship, but all relationships.
all
So,
relationships, right?
Well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks
Anybody
everybody.
else?
And don't forget to tap the link below. You know, it's that classic thing that you do.
Yes. Tap the link
Tap the
below.
link below, subscribe to the channel, send us your email. It's about being in community and communication. And so we can let you know the up and coming classes and courses. And then also tune into the channel because we will be having every month, satsangs or meetings or really different topics that we will talk. Just in this podcast, we've talked about so many amazing topics, and it will be an ongoing series for everyone to enjoy.
And we just skimmed the surface today. There's so much more that we could go into on each of the little seeds we dropped here in terms of topics.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's an ocean.
It's an ocean.
Okay, great.
So blessings to everyone.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Mm-hmm.